Hey everyone, this is Rick Gualtieri, and this is Tales of a Midlist Author. Been a while since last we spoke. Um, Generally speaking, if there's several weeks between one of these videos, you can usually make two assumptions. One, either I'm dead, or two, busy writing, marketing, doing that sort of thing. That first myth is obviously busted, because I'm here, and so that means it's been a pretty busy December for me. There was a book launch, a lot of marketing to do. The holidays, let's not forget that, and as a result of the holidays, trying to put things like this together and failing badly. But I'm back now, and what I wanted to do was kind of give a 2015 year in review. Kind of tell you some of the stuff that I wanted to do in 2015, what I was able to accomplish, some milestones I hit, how I got there, what I did wrong, and take a look going forward at what I'm hoping to do in 2016. So I wanted to start with the goals I had set for myself for 2015. Obviously there's the unrealistic goals of sell 1 billion books. I might as well set that every year. You never know it's going to happen, but most of the time it doesn't. But okay, let's look at more of the realistic ones. I'll list them out real quick, and then we'll go over those in more detail. One, wanted to be more strategic in 2015. I was planning on having 5 releases. Wanted to attend more conventions, book translations, and I wanted to take a look and see about getting the Toma Bill put into graphic novel format. So those were kind of my goals going into 2015. Excuse me. As for how those goals played out, well, let's start with the losers. Probably the biggest one was attend more cons. I wanted to go to more conventions, both local and out of town, and honestly, it just didn't happen. Wound up being a little lower on my priority list. Cons are really awesome networking things. They're great places to to meet people. Also, depending on the convention, it's either like you're interacting with end readers or you're interacting with other writers and learning a lot. But ultimately, well, it really comes down to I just suck at scheduling. I'm one of those people who are like, hey, I want to go to like this con, and then I'll put it in my calendar and I'll forget to look at that calendar until like the week after. So that one was bad on me. But probably something I really need to look into in 2016, although I've already screwed up one. I was looking at one convention, and it turns out, of course, it's on my oldest son's birthday, so that's probably not happening. So, all right. Translations. I have a lousy track record with getting my books translated into other languages. I seem to tend to attract people who then who are maybe like wanted by law enforcement or the mafia, because then I sign up with them, we get started, and then they disappear halfway through a project. I haven't lost any money on it, which is good, but still, it's kind of annoying. It's like, okay, I'm trying to pay you to do something for me, and then it's like, okay, are you alive? So didn't get any of that done. And another thing I'm going to push to 2016, although hoping to get a little 2016 starting off on a mixed bag with that. I just got shot down by Amazon Crossing. Signed up for that, tried to get Build a Vampire translated into German. They were like, hey, it's great that you're really high ranked, that you sold a lot, and no, we're not interested. Oh well, But I'm not discouraged. What doesn't get done now, as long as I want it badly enough, it will get done. Graphic novels. This was kind of a stretch goal. I would love to get the Toma Bill done as a graphic novel, put out there in kind of comic book format. That said, it's kind of a difficult thing to do. I know a few folks in the comic industry doing independent comics, and their first bit of advice was pretty much like run, don't walk. Expensive, time consuming, and it's a bit of it's definitely an investment. That being said, I learned a decent amount in 2015, but didn't really take any steps forward. This is something that I'm going to have to put forward when I have a little more time to devote to it. Once again, excuse me. A little phlegmy today for some reason. Don't know why. All right, so those were kind of cool, the losers. I say that half-heartedly because it didn't happen, but it's not like it really had a negative effect on business. Now let's look at some of the other ones. 5 releases. Well, my plan was to do 3 major releases as myself and 2 releases under my pen name. What wound up happening was I had 2 major releases under myself, Half a Prayer and The Wicked Dead, and I did 1 release under my pen name. As for the rest, that second book under my pen name never quite gelled. I need to go back to the drawing board and work on a plot with that. It's okay, it was only going to be a short story anyway, so I'm not too worried, and quite frankly, my pen name really doesn't sell anything, so I'm not really crying myself to sleep over that. As for the 5th one, that's finished. It's out there. It's going to be part of an anthology that's released by Curiosity Quills Press. They just hit some delays. It was originally supposed to come out in fall. Now I'm fingers crossed to early 2016. Actually, probably a bit of a blessing in disguise because it allows me to start off the year really strong. I had a very good release in December with The Wicked Dead, my best month ever. And I'm still doing pretty good moving into January. So I'm hoping if that release is fairly early, that will kind of be a nice little bump there. So starting off the year with a book finished and waiting in the wings, I consider that a good thing. And I also have another work in progress already started. So we're starting off 2016 with a bang. So I consider that a win. It just didn't quite work out how I planned. All right, be more strategic. This is where we can break it down a little bit of how I got there. First thing was branding. I started off the year with kind of a brand that was in a bit of a mess. I liked all my individual Build a Vampire covers, but a lot of them were by different artists. They didn't really match together. They didn't say series. So my goal was to have those redone so that they had consistent branding and then carry that through to everything else I did. So managed to accomplish that. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. I've redone my website and also my blog with the branding and created a new style guide for that. So all in all, where you see me out there now, it's a lot more consistent than in 2015, and that helps my brand. That helps my image. So when you see a certain font or so, or a certain maybe the series logo of the nerd glasses, it's me, or hopefully it's me. So that was definitely a big win. I wanted to give a lot more love to audiobooks in 2015. I've done really well on audiobooks, but I knew I could do better because I've just been kind of relying on people buying them just by finding the rest of the series. So one, it was giving them a dedicated page on my website with SoundCloud samples and all of that. And two, whenever I do paid advertising now, I focus on ebooks, but I also put some towards audiobooks, and that has helped a lot. And once again, we'll talk about milestones after this, and you be the judge. Advertising. I wanted to get a lot more smart with advertising. Before 2015, I was kind of taking hey, if I just keep releasing books, people find them, it's all good. And that worked for a while, but the market is maturing, it's getting more saturated now, and that really doesn't cut it. So my goal was to get much more smart with regards to advertising, and that played out pretty well. Rather than investing a lot in individual one-off shots, I invested in Mark Dawson's Facebook advertising course. Take a look for it if you can. I believe it's selfpublishingformula.com. Was an excellent investment. I learned a lot from it, and it turned out to be a very profitable investment as well. I've done pretty well on Facebook advertising last year. And try new things. And this one came to play a little bit interesting in that before this year, I've traditionally had my books wide. So I've been on Nook, Google Play, iBooks. And I've done pretty okay on them, but I've never really had a breakout hit on those platforms. Midway through the year, Amazon changed around Kindle Unlimited to favor longer novels. I write longer novels, so I figured, okay, I'm having a slow summer on the other platforms. I pulled all my books back, put them into Kindle Unlimited, figured I'd give it a try, and it's turned out to be a pretty good experiment. On average, I probably make about 5 times from just the Kindle Unlimited reads that I was making in total on the other platforms. So that's actually one of being very smart for my business. At the same time, I'm trying not to forget the people who are on those other platforms. When I launched The Wicked Dead, I did launch wide to give everybody a chance to to get it. It's only maybe a few days ago that I pulled it back into Kindle Unlimited to take advantage of that. So put in layman's terms, I remember the people who helped me out on those other platforms, and well, I don't like this shit where I eat. All right, so that's pretty much the strategies or the my goals for 2015. As for how they played out, well, I hit two big milestones in 2015. One, if you remember the early videos of this, I mentioned I had sold almost 100,000 books. Well, I've now sold well over 100,000 books. And I hit 10,000 books in audiobooks alone, which is pretty huge, especially since audiobooks tend to be pretty profitable. Working with a great narrator there, that's key. And you can either pay up front or do a revenue share there. I'm doing revenue share, but my hope is that selling 10,000 has been pretty profitable for me. So my hope is that working with my narrators, it's been pretty profitable for them as well. All right, so 2015 was not a bad year. I didn't do everything I set out to do, but I got a lot done, and I came out of it a lot stronger. I think my year in review this year would be a lot more positive than it was last year. So that said, looking forward into 2016, as I mentioned, I'm starting out strong. I have a lot of I have a book finished, waiting to release with that anthology, and I also have a work in progress that's well started. I'm actually just starting to get out of the intro of it, and that won't take too long to finish because I'm not planning on making that much more than a novella. As for the rest of it, I'm in a bit of a transition period. A lot depends on the next couple weeks, and that will determine how many books I'm looking to do for the year. I can't say for certain, but there's a potential chance that I may be going full time with my writing. Not necessarily my choice, but my writing is in a spot right now where it's not really a panic attack either. And if that happens, I'm going to be stepping up my game considerably with regards to output. So we'll see on that. All right. Getting back to the advertising, I want to keep stepping up my advertising. Facebook has done well for me, but it's also kind of turned into a bit of a gold rush in that a lot of authors have jumped into it. I'm not saying the market is saturated, but the market is definitely filling up. There's a lot more competition for that ad space. So I'm keeping that up. I'm continuing because I'm doing well on it, but I'm also branching out into Google AdWords a bit. So I've been talking to a rep there, and I'm going to see about launching some of those next week. So the hope is that to keep the paid advertising going and keep that cycle of new customers coming in, new readers. And speaking of those new readers, it's always been my goal. I can't say it's a yearly goal this year, last year, all the year, but always treat your readers well. And that's just one, it's an extension of kind of like who you are, but also it's just right. These are people who support you. Give a little back. Show them the same respect they show you. In fact, more so. I'm getting off track a little bit there, but all right. I want to be more proactive with blogging. I did blogs in 2015, but I was a little lazy with it. I want to be a little more proactive this year. That said, I haven't done a blog yet this year, so I need to boot my ass into shape there. But what I also want to do is be more proactive when it comes to advertising and such. I noticed in 2015 what I had a tendency to do was see something as it was unfolding, look and say, oh, that's interesting, and then go about my business. And then only later when other people would start jumping on it and start blogging about it, getting a lot of press, start advertising on it. And I was like, why didn't I do that? So I want to keep my eyes open a little bit better for opportunities. And when I see one, actually dive into it. Don't just look and say, oh, that's nice, and wait for somebody else to do it first. So like I said, being a little more proactive. I want to read more. That's another one. I've read a couple of awesome books well, more than a couple, but I read some awesome books by some newer authors in 2015. Some entertaining stuff by, for example, by James Hunter, Lincoln Farish, Ruby Cruz, just to name a few. Very entertaining books. But I also need to read more. I found, especially late in the year, rather than lying in bed and reading, I was lying in bed and just passing out. So I want to get more on that. Currently reading Mercury Falls by Rob Croce. Having a lot of fun with that. A lot of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy type humor in it. So a little plug to him. But I also want to read more. Make sure that at any given time I'm at least plowing through one book. And there's no holdup where I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop playing. I'm going to stop with this book and I'm going to play stupid games on my iPhone. Don't want to do that. You know, a good writer has to be a good reader. And speaking of the writing, obviously keep writing, and that's what it comes down to. You got to keep, keep in the business, keep launching, keep it fresh, and keep getting better. And of course, there's like a few minor things. I want to get better lighting in this office. I want to maybe install a heat vent in this office because it is fucking cold in here. And maybe, just maybe, in between all that, find a little time to lose a little weight. Get back on the treadmill, start lifting the weights again. But that's neither here nor there for writing. That's more home improvement and self improvement. But hey, probably keep me from, like, I don't know, dropping dead in the middle of the year, because that would make a really sucky update for 2016. Anyway, so that is my year in review. My name is Rick Gualtieri. This is Tales of a Midlist Author, and I hope to see you a lot more in this year. Talk to you soon.